Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here playing Hellblade 2, and in today's video I'm going to show you all of the collectibles in the entire game. This includes the 18 Lorestones as well as the 17 faces. But pretty much as soon as you start the game, at any point, feel free to press up on the D-pad in order to get a somewhat missable achievement called Worth 1,000 Words for opening up photo mode. In case you're wondering, you can easily follow through with this video and you can rest assured that you will have 1,000 gamer score by the end of it as you play through the game. Just to kind of cover my bases here really quick, in the top left corner you'll see what chapter we're on. This is chapter 1, and then you'll notice the name of the actual checkpoint that we're on. In this case, it's called Landfall. Luckily, there is a very decent chapter select that will allow you to go back and mop up collectibles should you miss any. The first Lorestone is almost impossible to miss within the first 5 minutes of gameplay. You will shimmy across a ledge, go through some ruins, and find it very obviously in front of you. We then move on to chapter 2 in the game, which has a lot more than just that one collectible we got in chapter 1. As soon as the chapter starts, if you move forward and into this village in front of you, if you go to the far right-hand side, you will notice another Lorestone. I'll be calling them Lorestones, although officially in the game they have a much more Icelandic name, which you can see in the top right corner of the screen. Each one has a unique symbol, which you will see glowing red once you interact with one, so that's also a good way you can keep up with which ones you have and which ones you don't. We then move a little bit further into chapter 2. If you are using the checkpoint select, the checkpoint is called Return Home, and you'll cross a bridge after completing some puzzles, go through this house, and as you exit, you'll have to turn left. You'll want to take another left-hand turn immediately as you exit the house, and then follow along through these small fences, taking another left-hand turn, and feel free to sprint using the left bumper to make your walk a little bit faster. After you take that next turn, you can crouch underneath the small log automatically, finding the Lorestone around the corner. This will be the third of the game. We can now backtrack a bit to the main path to get our first face collectible. That's officially what the game will call them. You'll unlock one achievement for all the Lorestones and one achievement for all of the faces. But as you get back to that main road, take a left-hand turn and go kind of slightly up the hill towards the flame. On the right-hand side of the flame, you'll see a rock that looks like a face. And if you focus on this rock, which I don't do a very obvious job doing as I was trying to figure out how this works, the rock will kind of fade into the background and almost like an illusion puzzle will reveal a secret path. So the faces reveal secret paths, and on those secret paths you can find trees. There are a total of 17 of these trees, also uniquely identified by the dot that they fill in the spiral of the center of the trunk. A little bit later on in the chapter, you'll be working towards the ceremony. You'll shimmy across a small ledge here, and then you'll be able to sprint forward and drop down, and this is a mandatory path you have to take. You can't miss it. This game is pretty linear. As you come around this corner to the left, instead of going forward, take a quick peek to your left, and you'll notice that there's a ladder that leads to a little plateau up here. At first, it wasn't immediately obvious to me, but there was a collectible up here. I actually came back here on my second playthrough to grab it. But go ahead and go up the ladder and then up the path and jump on over the rocks, which was the part I kind of didn't realize you could do. And then at the end of the path, find your fourth Lorestone. Again, you can do these through chapter select or on another playthrough if you miss anything the first time around. Now, after the ceremony and after the ritual, you may think that you have started chapter 3, but you're still in chapter 2. This is a checkpoint called Meeting the Stranger. It's now daytime and you've met someone that's a part of the story. We're going to try to keep spoilers to a minimum where possible. And as soon as you kind of walk forward, instead of going down the hill and to the right and following this new stranger, Look to the left and use your focus to find the face in the rocks, revealing the secret path with the tree at the end. You actually don't have to interact with the tree for this collectible to count. It will count even if you just open up the path, but just to be safe, you may want to interact with it to fill up that ring just in case. Just a little bit past the previous collectible, you'll be continuing down the hill in conversation with the new stranger. And at this point, there will be a small fork in the road, but you kind of have to keep your eyes peeled. Take the left-hand fork instead of continuing down the hill and following the stranger. And there will be a small path that may not be immediately obvious, but if you're following it, it's kind of hard to not notice it. At the end of the path, hidden behind some rocks, find your 5th Lorestone, and now we can move on to Chapter 3. Pretty much at the very beginning of Chapter 3, the checkpoint is called Red Hills. You'll be able to find a total of 3 collectibles very close by. There will be 2 faces as well as a Lorestone. You'll come down the hill, and there will be a lot of conversations you can have here. But if you stick to the left-hand side and kind of rub up against the rocks, going as far left as possible, you should eventually stumble upon a face in the rocks. And this is one of our next collectibles. You can kind of take a long route on the far left or just kind of go right up the middle. But again, you want to focus on it to reveal the secret path, and just to be safe, you want to go down the secret path and interact with the tree to fill up that spiral. Now from this tree, you can also find another Lorestone. So head back down the path we kind of came from. As you're exiting the secret path, keep an eye out on the far left. And you should notice the Lorestone tower, but if not, just follow the rocks until you see it and focus on it in order to reveal that symbol. Last but not least, I'm just returning to that hill we used to enter the area as a reference point. But as you come down the hill, instead of going left to the last 2 collectibles, turn to the right and then head down this dead-end path. I actually didn't notice this on my first time through this path, but if you keep your eyes on the left, you can find another one of those faces you're looking for. The collectibles are pretty easy generally, but there are a couple of tricky ones, especially coming up later. So you may want to follow the video and recommend it to a friend to make sure you don't miss anything. Also drop a like if it's been helpful so far. We're continuing on with Chapter 3 a little bit later on. This is one of the kind of heftier chapters in the game. You'll have a small conversation that will lead you into some gameplay. And immediately you want to turn around and start running kind of back to where we came from. We came up out of the hole that we're about to pass just here. And here, if we go all the way around following this path, it will lead us to a Lorestone. You can actually see this Lorestone from where we started walking if you were to look to your right-hand side. But there is a ledge that is too tall to climb to get to it. So the only way to get to it is to go all the way around, just as I showed. But from the Lorestone, you can use that ledge to circle back to where we started. From the previous collectible, you'll come down a ladder kind of on the face of the cliff to end up on this lower path. As you follow the path, it will curve left past this big puddle. And as you're walking down this path, all the way at the end of this kind of long straightaway, there will be a face, which will reveal a secret path with a tree at the end of that path, as is the kind of regular course of action for this type of collectible. So keep an eye out on your left to find it. Make sure you focus on it to reveal the path. Walk to the end and interact with the tree to fill up that spiral. Again, as a reminder, these are uniquely numbered, so if you miss one, it will skip one of the dots in that spiral.
birth, people live hidden too.
You'll then have to do a series of puzzles where you interact with some kind of magic balls and you take them over to a pedestal to open up a door that will let you exit the area. The first time you do this, you should exit through this door right here, and as you go up the path, keep an eye out on your right-hand side where you'll be able to find one of the secret hidden paths.
Here, they know that if times are harsh.
After completing the first pedestal puzzle and then going up that path and grabbing that face, there is a nearby Lorestone as well. All you have to do is return to that main path and continue up the hill, keeping an eye out on your left-hand side. You may notice the Lorestone, but you can't walk directly to it. Instead, you have to climb up a ledge just a little bit further, and then once up that ledge, you can shimmy your way through a tight squeeze in the rocks, and then, only then, can you go to the Lorestone and grab it.
The skalds say that the neighbors fought.
Quite a few collectibles in the on the hill checkpoint, but you'll do another pedestal puzzle with the kind of purple magic spheres. After you open the next door, you should be able to walk up this linear path, which is required to complete the chapter, so you really can't miss it. But after that puzzle, you'll have to drop down these two ledges and you'll end up in a new area. And luckily for us, this area also has a few collectibles for us to grab. So as you jump down the lower ledge, you'll then enter into a new area and you can't backtrack. But if you walk forward and up the path and keep an eye out on the right-hand side, you should notice a ledge that you can climb up and then another ledge that you can climb up. And at the end of this path, you'll be able to find a face and a tree. So go ahead and grab those.
In the lands of your birth, and in these lands.
From the previous collectible location, we can actually find two more collectibles. They are both Lorestones, and they're both on the easy side. If you have a keen eye, you may have already spotted one of them. But just go back down the path and jump down the two ledges to return to the main path. And then here you can take a right-hand turn, and to continue the chapter, you'd go straight and all the way up the hill. But keep an eye out on the left-hand side, and you should notice a small path that continues between a small little squeeze between two rocks. And if you go through here, you can then climb up a ledge, follow the path in a small loop towards your next Lorestone.
The skalds speak of the time Grettir, traveling with some others.
Last but not least, in this same area, you can then go and head back towards the main path. I'm going to take the shortcut by just jumping down the ledge next to the Lorestone. And then here you'll take a left-hand turn to end up back on that main path. And now you'll want to start walking forward and a little bit up the hill. Don't go too far up the hill, as there is a point of no return, which ends this section of this chapter at the end of the path. But you'll want to keep an eye out on the right. And here there's a small little fork in the road that leads to a tunnel. And if you then go through that tunnel, you'll lead yourself to a path, climb up a ledge, and find the Lorestone pretty obviously directly in front of you.
When Grettir came to the farm where the fire was burning,
The final collectible of Chapter 3 can be found in the final checkpoint called Hide the Hidden Folk. It's possible during the puzzle and you want to do it after you've placed 2 of the purple magic spheres in the pedestals in the middle. Now bear with me here. You want to interact with the orb nearest the pedestals so that the platform on the left is upside down and on the roof. Again, bear with me here. This is going to sound really complicated if you haven't done this puzzle, but it's really easy. So you've placed those 2 spheres, you've put that platform on the left upside down, and then you're going to climb up onto this ledge here that I'm climbing up in order to interact with this orb and flip the path. But as you do this, you will be attacked and you will have to do a fight. I've already done that fight, so you don't have to watch it on screen right now. But you want to flip this so that the path is accessible. So basically there's these kind of wooden spikes, and the wooden spikes have to be on the roof. That way you can actually make it onto that path now. And then for this middle orb, you want to make sure that the bridge connecting the left and the right is formed. So make sure the platform right here goes down. So in front of you, there is now a link between these 2 areas. You basically have to do this in order to grab the 3rd magic sphere. But the important thing we're doing is that the 3rd magic sphere is actually on the roof and not on the ground. This allows this piece of land to exist. And once we're on this piece of land, we can walk forward and interact with this Lorestone that you can't reach otherwise. Hopefully that all made sense. We now start chapter 4, the longest chapter in the game, and it also has quite a few collectibles. But right at basically the very, very beginning of the chapter, you'll squeeze through some rocks into a cave, and it's going to be really dark in here, but you can't really get lost. But near the very beginning, you'll drop down a small little ledge. You'll follow the path just a little bit. And once it opens up into a slightly larger area, you want to look to the left-hand side to make sure that you don't miss the hidden face. Use your focus to open up the path and then find the tree, making sure you grab it before you move on.
In a land to the east, they know that when a traveler finds...
Just a few seconds after the previous collectible, you'll follow the very linear path that you have to take in order to progress through the level, and you'll make your way a little bit deeper and further into the cave. As you're going through the cave, if you take a quick peek to your right-hand side, you may notice the Lorestone, but you can't grab it until you continue further into the cave. You'll have to drop down a ledge where the cave really does start to begin to open up, and here you want to hook around to the right-hand side and then backtrack a little bit. You should notice a ledge that you can climb up, and then this ledge leads to a path where you can find that Lorestone. As you continue chapter 4, you will be introduced into a new gameplay mechanic. You'll come to a door that you are unable to open up, and what you'll have to do is you'll have to interact with this blue flame in order to change the properties of that door in order to open it up. But basically there is like a little bit of a rainbow filter on that door, which lets you know that when you interact with the flame, it will change that door from probably being closed to being open. You have to do this to progress. But after you interact with this flame, don't drop down the ledge and go through the door. Instead, look behind you, and here you can find a face that was previously hidden when the flame was lit, and now you can interact with it in order to reveal the secret path inside.
In this place, they know that sometimes the hidden...
Only about 30 seconds after the last collectible, you'll have to go down this mandatory path for progression, where you'll have to jump down this hole in order to continue the chapter. And as soon as you drop down this hole, which does happen in a little bit of a cinematic, we can find probably one of the most well-hidden faces in the entire game. The reason I say that is because I actually didn't even realize it was a face. I kind of got it by accident. As soon as you drop down, turn around and look behind you. That's where every good game developer puts all the well-hidden collectibles. And here you'll have to focus and find a face in order to reveal the tree. I don't have the face here because I accidentally revealed it without filming, but it will be at the far back end of this cave after dropping down the hole. We're still in the first checkpoint section of Chapter 4. That checkpoint section is called Enter the Caves. I've just solved a puzzle here and lit the blue flame, which has created this bridge that I can now cross to exit this area where I did a bunch of the rest of the puzzles there. And then this bridge leads to a little bit of a tunnel, and I'm going to continue down that tunnel, and I'm going to take a quick peek to my right-hand side as the tunnel opens up. And here you should be able to notice a Lorestone and a pretty well hidden little bridge path that connects the two platforms. You can also go up and then kind of around, but this is going to be the easiest way to grab Lorestone number 13.
The skalds say Grettir wanted the sword that was...
Now, as I said earlier, Chapter 4 is incredibly long. We are now at a checkpoint called Art of Sacrifice, but there's probably at least 30 minutes of gameplay from the last collectible to this one. You'll exit the dark cave, and then the cave will become a little bit brighter. And as you exit, you'll come down this path. There'll be a bunch of floating rocks, but immediately as you kind of enter the light cave, after exiting the dark cave, you can find on the left-hand side a face that reveals a path. As you've come to learn, you know what's at the end of the path, but you want to interact with it before you move on.
These people know that children who have died uncared.
Just barely past the previous collectible, you'll crouch down into a tunnel, then drop down a ledge, and you'll end up on this mandatory path towards progression. At the end of this path, you would turn left to continue the chapter, but if you go to the end of the path and turn right instead, you can find Lorestone number 14. I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this was the final one I found in the game, and actually had me stumped for a little bit of time. I unlocked my achievement here, but you still got a couple to go if you're following along with the video.
Buried in the grave.
We then move on to the beginning of Chapter 5. This checkpoint is called To the Sea, and as you come down and follow the main path, you'll go down the hill a little bit. There will be a ravine, and on the other side you would go up the hill. But take a quick peek to the right-hand side of this ravine to see a small waterfall, as well as the hidden face. As always, you'll interact with it in order to grab this collectible quite easily.
In this land, you may catch sight of the...
You may have noticed a pattern as well. Next to most faces, there's also a Lorestone, and this is no different. Again, if you've had a keen eye, you may have already seen where the Lorestone is, as it was very briefly on screen during this video. But go up the hill from the ravine, and instead of going and following the main path, at the top of the hill, take a right-hand turn. This should reveal a little bit of a secret path that you can follow along to the top of the waterfall, and at the top of the waterfall, above the face that we revealed, you'll find Lorestone number 15.
The skald's verse tells how Grettir made many enemies.
You'll then come to the next checkpoint of Chapter 5, where you are talking to and following this ally through this kind of mossy, rocky area. And this is a very linear path where you basically have to follow them. And they're going to go ahead and squeeze through some rocks directly in front of you. You don't want to do that, as this locks you out from the collectible, which is immediately on the right-hand side, just before you go through those rocks. If you go through those rocks, don't worry. Go to the main menu, go to Chapter Select, and select this checkpoint. It's only going to take you a minute to get back here, but here is where you can find the 13th tree.
In the heart of the Northlands, they know the story.
Just a little bit further past the last collectible, you'll have to be following your ally, and then you'll have to come up this ledge. And instead of following them to the left, you can take a quick peek to the right-hand side. You may notice the Lorestone just peeking over the hill a little bit, and you can't walk directly towards it. Instead, you have to go to the right-hand side to find a little bit of a hidden path. This hidden path will lead you through a small tunnel. As you come out of that tunnel, the Lorestone will be pretty much directly in front of you. Very easy to grab.
The outlaw Grettir fled to the island of Drangi.
You'll then continue with the chapter. You'll reach an area where you have to open up a door with a bunch of symbols on it. The symbols are kind of like 3 6s in a circle. And once you open up that door, you'll just walk right on through and then continue along the main path. As you're going down the main path, just keep an eye out on the right-hand side to find one of the more obvious faces in the game. And here you'll want to focus it to reveal it. And one of the longer paths in order to reach the tree at the end, but you'll probably want to reach the tree at the end just to be safe either way.
In your lands, traveler.
We've now moved on to a checkpoint called Another Question. We are next to a bunch of kind of ships that have shipwrecked onto the shore, and we are blocked by a door that requires 3 symbols to get through, and there are 2 collectibles that you can kind of grab in this newly opened up area. So backtrack a little bit behind you in order to go up the ledge and then to the left, and if you go down the path and interact with the orb that is near the ocean, it should reveal this path for you. And then this path should reach the first symbol you will need for that door, and that's with the kind of yellow on some of the wood pieces here. But then you can follow along the path and drop down this ledge. And what you're supposed to do is go up the ledge on the right-hand side and then go across the bridge, but you'll notice that the bridge isn't there. You can use the orb to create the bridge, but you actually don't want to create the bridge, as there's a secret path through the bridge, which you can only go through if it's not a real bridge. And if you go down this secret path, you'll squeeze through some rocks, and there are 2 things to grab here, both a Lorestone, probably one of the better hidden Lorestones in the game, although you can see it from the area you'll have to go to solve the puzzles, so you may actually kind of see it even though you're not supposed to, and then you'll kind of figure it out naturally. But at the end of this path, find Lorestone number 17, only 1 more to go after this. Now, from our previous Lorestone, you can actually turn around, and directly behind you, you'll notice a face. I almost missed this one, and I don't know how long it would have taken me to find it on a second playthrough, but it's directly behind you as you're exiting from the Lorestone on your way back to the main path. Focus on it, reveal the tree, go inside. You know what to do. We are still technically in the checkpoint called Another Question, but we've made it through that door that was blocking our path. There's been a cutscene or 2, and we've made it to this village in the rain with some flames guiding us. As you come down the hill, you'll notice that there is a path about halfway down to the right-hand side. If you go here and follow this path, you'll notice that there is a face. You can reveal it and find the tree inside here. Personally, this was my last face in the game, so you will see my achievement unlock a little bit early, but if you're following along with the video, you do have 1 more to go.
People here speak of warriors.
Now, from this tree, we can also find our final Lorestone. Stick around after the collectibles, by the way. There's 1 miscellaneous achievement I'll show you how to grab at the end of this video, so you don't want to miss that. It is required, obviously, if you want to get everything completed. Head back down to that main path and then start heading down the hill. At the end of the path, instead of going up and to the right, go up and to the left. Here you'll do a little bit of an S curve in order to get into the kind of back garden behind the houses. And here you should find a somewhat obvious Lorestone, but it's somewhat easy to miss because if you go on the right-hand side and you interact with a specific house, it starts a cutscene, which then leads into the next chapter and locks you out of this area. Next to this final Lorestone is also our final face. Continue along this left-hand side path next to the Lorestone, and just behind this house, find your final face, and here is your final hidden path, your final tree. Interact with both of those in order to get both of your achievements for your collectibles. But stay tuned, there's one more important thing to do. Also, don't forget to drop a like and share the video with a friend if it's been helpful. I also have super thanks enabled in the YouTube comments if you're willing. Now, luckily for you, Chapter 6 doesn't have any collectibles, and it's the final chapter in the game. Once you do complete the game, you'll be able to unlock a new setting. If you go into audio, you can choose some new narrators. You'll want to do that, and then you can go back up to chapters and load any chapter you want. This should unlock your final achievement in the game, called Seeing Things Differently. At this point, you'll have the 1000 gamer score, you'll drop a like on this video, and hopefully I see you next time. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. Peace.